Hello, this is Dale, and I'm joined by Mike, and I'm a very happy guy today because this is the first time since we started this new nightly show, and this is the 27th show. Mike asked me that, can you keep track of that? Because it's the 27th of January, and we started on January 1. Next month's going to be a little bit harder, especially since there's only 28 days. Then what am I going to do? Okay, so this is exciting to me because this is the first time that we've had a chance to review live the KAJO call-in talk show that happens on the last Tuesday of the month, where the commissioners come by and everybody in the community calls in and asks them questions. Except these days, nobody's calling in. It's a call-in talk show where nobody calls. So, Mike, you got a chance to listen to it.
Yes, I did.
Thank you for that comment, Mike. And so,
yes. Did you? What were you caring for specific feedback, or what was the deal?
oh no,
Yes,
general
I
feedback.
did hear it.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So, this is great because this talk show, this call-in show has gone down and down and down. And most people just don't bother listening to it. They pegged KAJO for what it is. It's Rotary Radio. It is Chuck Benson, who is the host of this, is a tool of Rotary. I don't mind saying that. And it seems instead of trying to be a journalist of any kind, he's trying for the award from the Chamber of Commerce for most happy announcer in the county. Well, he's got big competition for this, for example, from KRRM. Now, they call KRRM media, and they're allowed into executive session, and they don't even do news. But, see, we've got 197,000 views, and we're not media because we're nothing. You are now watching nothing. You're watching nothing, Mike. You're participating in nothing.
Yes, I know, and the guy makes me do this every single night, for crying out loud. No, what I'm saying is, hey, why don't you just go get a token job over at KRRM as their news correspondent guy, and then you're sitting in executive session.
I actually offered to give them all of our clips, and they could choose any of them that they wanted to, or maybe we could do a story every once in a while about country music. No problem with that. They didn't want it. They don't want to have anything to do with news. News bores them.
Yeah, well, it's more work for them. I believe that KRRM is a programmed station, so you have guys that are sitting there. They do voiceover intros and outros on songs, and they go through the whole program list, and so they're working really busy a couple of days a week, and the rest of the week the switch has been flipped and it's all running on automatic.
But they're considered by the commissioners to be news media.
Right. Well, and that's whatever. That's fine.
Well,
I think
that we're not, but okay. Of course,
yes,
we could never be considered news media.
Yeah, but listen. That's politics. That's what that is. You're not. They shouldn't have a place in determining who media is, and yet they do because. Well, because they get away with that.
Yes, that's why.
I guess the state has given them some sort of a loophole where they can determine who media is, and which is really odd. I don't know where the state gets off with that, but whatever.
All right, let's have a chance to review some of the performance of Chuck Benson at KAJO Radio. He gets a chance to talk with the commissioners and ask them the tough questions. So Chuck mentions at the beginning of the show that he's gotten quite a bit of feedback from people out the community about the Dimmick Tower. Nothing at all about the $100,000 plus cost overrun, of course, because KAJO does not consider that a story, and they haven't said anything to anybody about it either, and neither has the Courier. They still haven't written a word about that, $100,000 plus. Well, people might be thinking, gee, I wonder if it really is a story. Come on, snap out of it. Of course it's a story. So here's Chuck Benson the consummate professional, the journalist of our local society. People have asked Chuck, and he says it at the beginning of this clip, what's this about asbestos abatement? You know, I haven't really seen anything covering all these parts, and I'm a little concerned. So here's how Chuck poses the question as a professional journalist. Go ahead and play clip 1.
Live in that area, so they really hadn't noticed very much in terms of the tower being, what is a good word, encapsulated for some of the mold and asbestos that was there, but I'm assuming everything went smoothly.
Yes. They hadn't seen them taking care of anything, but I just assume everything went smoothly because it's you guys.
Right. He's a journalist? Imagine that you've had a chance to sit down. You're now representing, let's see, what one would Mike want? Fox News, okay? You're now representing Fox News, and you've gotten a chance to interview the Vice President of the United States. So you're sitting there in the White House, and you say, Mr. Vice President, there are a number of problems that people face in this country with the incursion of the National Security Agency into our privacy, but I'm assuming that everything's going just fine.
Yeah, right. I'm assuming that you're not doing anything wrong because, you know.
What kind of journalism is this?
Because you wouldn't do that.
I am assuming it's all just fine. What? Okay, so just assume that Chuck Benson, the journalist of KAJO Rotary Radio, wants to get a pat on the back from the Rotary Club. Okay, so what is it that, remember, there are some questions about this dang thing, about the cost overruns, but they're not going to, I told you that they wouldn't talk about that on this show. It's a call-in show where the commissioners come and defend their phony baloney jobs, and nobody would ask them a question about cost overruns. They didn't. Okay, go ahead. Here's Simon Hare's answer. Clip 2.
Everything actually has gone so far very textbook. We've had very few things that were unanticipated.
Really?
Yes, I read the textbook on this, and yeah.
We're not seeing the little on-air logo. It doesn't matter. I've got one over my shoulder. But really, everything has gone according to plan. They've not seen anything. Nothing has occurred to us that would be wrong. Counting 3 floors instead of 4. Oh, that's all according to plan. Why, it's all under the budget, too. Why, Chuck, it wouldn't occur to Chuck to ask him a question about this. Go ahead, clip 3. This is great.
There were some conversation about the a change order that required additional funds, but those were all within budget and frankly anticipated.
So he's calling $100,000 cost overrun. You think I'm going to give up on this subject? He's calling that a change order. Oh, well, a change order, you know, that doesn't sound like much. What was that, $10? $100? No, $100,000. And frankly, that was anticipated. Frankly, that was anticipated? See, that's just a flat-out, doggone, big lie. That wasn't anticipated. A change order of $100,000 plus, and frankly, that was anticipated. This has to rank up there with me to the Deacon's family has forgiven me, or to I never said that the sheriff is padding his budget. Frankly, that was anticipated. Don't forget this.
Well, you know, I mean, and what else are you going to say if you're this guy? You know, he had probably a couple of weeks of you know, going after him on the overrun, and he thought, well, how am I going to deal with this? Oh, I know. It was anticipated overrun. You know,
of $100,000.
Well, he doesn't. He never says 100,000 when
no,
he's
he
saying
doesn't.
it was anticipated.
It was simply a change order. It was just a change order. Go back to sleep, everybody. Okay, next one. I'm loving this.
Due to the contract that we had signed in the original abatement that was done through an ABCA, abatement assessment that was done through an ABCA. It
What?
didn't take into account the top floor and was just assumed that that would have to be done by the contractor that came in.
Okay, so they baffle you with this bull, right? They're using, you see Cheryl do this all the time. She'll give you a long list of things. Why, you need to know that at the park they've got grass, they've got trees, they've got flowers, they've got, did I mention grass? They've got, I think I mentioned trees, or they got birds, they got flowers. Really? And nice little acronyms. Why, there was an ABCA, so you know it's legit now. Come on. Come on. Oh, you're being so tough on him, Dale. Why, just let him throw in a couple of acronyms. It makes him feel better. Next clip.
It was a very specialized subcontractor that did all of the asbestos and lead and hazardous material removal before the building was actually taken down. So for a number of weeks, people may have even been disappointed that there wasn't really that much activity.
Didn't see much activity going on. It was
Boy,
all
was there
inside.
a lot going on inside, and they were taking it floor by floor.
Except for the fourth floor. Right. They were taking it floor by floor. Oh, you know, the real concern that I have is that people were a little disappointed and they didn't get to see the building collapsing in on itself. By the way, when do the monster trucks start?
Yes.
No one's, Dale, nobody's interested in the fact that this went $100,000 cost overrun. They want to know, when do we get to see stuff explode? And by the way, why don't you try to baffle me with acronyms that nobody knows and it doesn't matter? Oh, well, they went floor by floor and they were looking for scientific things. Did they find the money? Go ahead.
The money? What money are you talking about, Dale?
Yeah, we don't know what you mean by that.
Inspected by outside agencies, including OSHA, EPA, DEQ, for total decontamination of the structure before it was brought down. So that's actually what added to the cost, but it made the whole process very safe for the public in the neighborhood.
Okay, all right. This is a great little quote. Okay, I hope everybody's following along with me. I'm not being too inside baseball here. First of all, there were all these agencies. That's pretty scientific. Wow, I'm impressed. And frankly, that's why it went over budget. No, that's a lie. That's not why it went over budget. And it was because we were trying to keep the public safe. And did I mention kittens and sunshine? And what about those flowers that Cheryl was just talking about? Don't forget them. Forget about the money. And this professional journalist is sitting there with them. It's like, that's great. Boy, I'm so glad to hear the reason why it went over budget. It wasn't because you can't count from 1, 2, 3 plus 4. That's not why. It's because there were professional organizations with stunning acronyms that's associated with them. I'm not lying to you. Next.
We received very few complaints that weren't addressed at a very timely fashion, and and everybody seems to be maybe disappointed that a kind of a historic building in Josephine County was removed, but it was a blight on our community that unfortunately came about through not maintaining that roof and needed to be removed. There was no other option.
Okay, so what's the summary of that again? Maybe the reason that people were disappointed is because we were removing a historical building. You know, there's people lined up around the block at the Ann Basker Auditorium and at the courthouse protesting the fact that they love this old rundown hospital. They are not concerned about how much money is spent on anything. Their concerns all center around the fact that we had this lovely old building and they didn't want it torn down when it's full of mold and people are breaking into it and windows are broken. Oh, do you really need to do anything with it? Well, what about the money? Oh, forget about the money. Think about the nostalgia. Okay.
Well, were there people protesting this thing being torn down? Torn down? Oh,
it's another straw man. It's like Cheryl Walker. Well, people have begged me not to have a voter's pamphlet. No, they're not. it's easily knocked out. Well, people might have been disappointed. You heard what he said. People might have been disappointed about tearing down this old building. There was nobody that was disappointed about tearing down this building. Nobody.
Yeah.
Not a single. Okay.
Yeah, nobody. So I mean, the beef is just to make it clear for people. We don't care if they tear down the building. It's just that this is just another in the long line of examples of them not being truthful. And there is a little competency issue because, listen.
A little?
Everybody assumes, oh, well, you know, they knew what they were doing and everything. Listen, these guys, commissioners, they don't have any previous construction experience. They don't know how to deal with this stuff. They don't know, you know, the ins and outs of the construction business. So it isn't that hard to assume that, you know, a couple of things caught them by surprise, and clearly they did. So just cop to it and move on, and you can sidestep most of the controversy here.
Now, if you were part of an oversight committee overseeing the county attorney, would you have any beef at all with Steve Rich, the county attorney, that suggested they sign this contract that allows the contractor to stick us with the bill after they bid on the entire project to bring it all down? Remember, they're not bidding on a deal to clean up each individual floor. They're bidding on a deal to tear the whole building down. And so they bid on a contract to tear down 3 of the 4 floors. And even Simon says not the top floor. I made that up. I said top floor floating in midair. So he's picked up on that. That's dumb. But okay, so it could have been the first floor. We're going to leave but nope, he picked the 4th floor. So we're going to, so as the oversight committee, are you going to give Steve Rich a pat on the back, which they've done, and $50,000 contract while he's gone? I think because if they don't like what Wally Hicks is telling them, they just talk to their second source, who they're paying $50,000 to give them more advice like this, which is sign this contract, which lets the contractor is completely scot-free.
Yeah, that's a little odd. I find it hard to believe that it actually goes that way.
That's what they said.
I'd like to read the contract to find out how that really is, and it may well be that if some unanticipated cost in there comes up, well, then they can't be held responsible for that. And I kind of understand that, having been a contractor myself. You know, you can't anticipate every twist and turn if the you know, the person hiring you, the client, comes up with some other thing that they want you to do.
Like tear down the 4th floor? The one
right,
that's hovering in air?
Then that's a change order. And so I would have verbiage in there that says that I can, you know, charge you. I mean, if you make a change to the contract, then that costs money. So I understand.
What kind of contractor would make a contract with this county, with anybody, to tear down the bottom 3 floors and leave the 4th one hovering in air? What's the job? Tear down the whole building.
Yes, but of course that isn't how it was. I mean, that was a creation of yours that has been picked up on. So yeah, but we can't talk about like that like it's reality, because it isn't.
Okay, but nobody thought they would leave the 1st floor sitting there. The job was to tear down the whole dang building right down to the ground, down to the dirt, which they have now done. And this is what the contractor bid on. And the fact that the people who are paying the bill, us, we screwed up by electing the wrong people who can't count from 1 to 4. Now the contractor then says, well, you asked for it to all be torn down, and we need to charge you for more than the 3 floors.
Yeah, you know what? There's some missing information here.
Yeah, I guess so. Well,
there really is. There is.
One thing that's missing, and we need to cut them a break on this. I'm telling you, we need to cut them a break. We got more money from the state than we needed for this project. Simon Hare and the other 2 commissioners asked for more money than they needed, and they knew that it was more money. Did the state know? They may have. And what we were going to do is we were going to keep something like $100,000, and it was going to go probably into the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they say, well, this was in the budget, yeah, it's in the state budget, which comes out of our other pocket.
Yes.
And now we don't get to use that for other projects. And so, hey, sing a happy song. The only problem is, like I said, it comes out of our other pocket, and so we're all being cheated on a state level by this. But the other thing is, we don't get it to use for other things, which, I don't know, could have gone to law enforcement. It could have if it was going to go into the general fund, but we don't get that now. So, don't worry about it, because that was all within the budget. That was anticipated. To say it was anticipated is a Harry Mackin-like experience. Just say anything that you want. Just pretend like it's the truth. And everybody's going to believe you? I don't think so, Harry. And I don't think I believe these commissioners when they say, oh, everything is fine. Why, we anticipated this. No, you didn't.
Well, and that's what you come up with after the fact to spin it so you don't look like an idiot. And you know what? And listen, this is a government operation. I don't think anybody expects it to run smoothly. They really don't.
Then don't tell us afterwards that it was all anticipated. Okay.
Right.
So speaking of spinning, so Chuck Benson is not done. He's this journalist, and what he does in the next segment of the show is of the call-in show where everybody calls in, is he tries to come up with something happy that he can say. And he tosses it to, just wait to, he really does try to say something over the top, saccharine happy, and then Cheryl Walker actually says, no, that's not true. Next clip. Go ahead.
Now, this program that you talk about that Director Hoover has instigated or at least negotiated here, that's going to result in some significant savings for the county, isn't it?
I think it's going to result not necessarily in savings, but it will result in a viability for our department, because when All Care is going to be providing some nurses to us, that's where we have our shortcoming, and is in the clinical. We are required to provide certain clinical services, and right now we are just short on nursing staff, and they're going to be providing some nursing staff for us. And so we will be sharing in the revenues with All Care because they will be able to bill for the services of those nurses, and we will be sharing.
All right. Well, that's good news for the county.
Very good news.
Well, okay, so this is going to be great for the county, won't it? Actually, no, we're not going to save any money at all, Chuck. Oh, well, okay.
Oh, well, that's good news.
It's good news for the county.
Yeah.
What a tool this guy is, really. Okay, all right. Now, Cheryl's going to explain to all of us, because she likes to talk on this show, she's going to explain ad nauseum about these new ordinances that this new ordinance that we're going to have, and how famous they are for ordinances like the junk ordinances that were defeated by 80% vote. And she's going to explain to us why we're going to have an ordinance about taxing marijuana. You know, even the state doesn't know. I know this sounds impossible. They don't know the difference between a tax and a fee. The state has not made up their mind. What is the difference between a tax and a fee? And when you look at our charter, you'll see some wording in there about income tax and about fees. But Cheryl's going to explain to us that they needed to do this ordinance about marijuana. And keep in mind that they've said from the beginning, and they've started doing this recently, that this new law, ordinance, that we're going to pass is flawed. In fact, it probably is going to be repealed. In fact, we probably can't do it, but we're going to pass the law now, and then we're going to come back later, and we're going to fix it. Go ahead and play that next one, please.
As to the ordinance that we have here in Josephine County, we put that forward and passed it as a board. Of course, it can't be implemented without a vote of the people because there is a tax within it. And so that is the discussion we're having now as to whether we're actually going to go ahead and put that on the ballot for the vote in May. And the situation is...
And that's what you're going to be dealing with tomorrow.
Yes, yes, because we had to get that implemented at the time we did because we were up against a deadline in regards to having something in place to make the argument that because we're a home rule county and we had something in place that we're grandfathered prior to the implementation of Measure 91. So that is why we did it, and that is why we put it forward at this time. And some people say, well, why don't you withdraw it? Because there's certain questions coming up and things are going to be changed. But if we withdrew that, we would lose our legal argument that we are grandfathered as part of the argument of being a home rule county.
So
sometimes you're just reminded how long a minute is.
And talking with legal counsel today, because I got a chance to sit down and talk with him. In many ways, he's a great guy, but there's still questions. And so I said, now wait a minute. Here you've got the state, and they're going to look at the fact that we've got a home rule charter for a county, which is considered different than a home rule charter for a city. I don't know why. They weren't able to explain this very well at the meeting. So that's considered different. One of the things they're going to do is they're going to look and they're going to say, do you have a vote of the people, or are you just imposing this as 3 dictators on the rest of the county? And so they must get this, or they're going to lose a lot of their power. Hello, everybody, if they don't get this vote agreeing that we should tax marijuana, then they're going to lose a lot of their credibility, not only here, which they've already done, but also in Salem. And one of the things that Salem's going to look at is, are you guys now just starting to pass ordinances, laws, without thinking about the consequences, without reading the ordinance? We've seen both of those things, and you're just passing them as kind of placeholders that you intend to, which they've said, to come back later and either completely nullify or change it as you wish?
Well, I think every county in Oregon kind of did that. When this law being passed was imminent, and they all pretty much did it for the specific purpose that we'll come back and try and clean it up later. But they were worried about missing the grandfather status.
Well, wait till tomorrow at the weekly business session when Big Bad Sandy Casanelli walks into the room, and just like she did with the ordinances before, she starts to point out some of the things that are in this ordinance, this taxing ordinance on marijuana. She doesn't like marijuana. She doesn't want marijuana being smoked by anybody, even though Oregon said yes. And by the way, that vote here, a number of people have been saying, look, here's a little bit of truth for you. You're not going to see this in the Courier, and it's not going to be on Rotary Radio. How many people, okay, is it true that Measure 91, the legalization of marijuana, did not pass in Josephine County by Josephine County voters? Yes, it's true. It did not pass. What was the margin of how it did not pass? Because there's a lot of people saying, aha, see, it didn't pass in Josephine County. There you go. This is what we think. What would you think? Do you have any guess? Anybody out there? Mike knows. But do you have any guess by how many votes it lost? Are you ready?
Okay.
Not 2%. 2 votes. What?
Wow.
2 votes. By anyone's honest estimation. Hello, Chuck Benson of KAJO. That's a tie. 2 votes. Oh, yeah. We have a strong mandate. Why, Cheryl Walker won by 62 votes. This one lost by 2 votes. Up. Now we have our answer from the people. You do have an answer from the people. 2 votes? Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but it has to go one way or the other. If it's yes. 2 votes, then you go to the side that with the other 2 votes.
But here's the question for the audience: if it's true that BadCounty.com and the Mike and Dale show, Dale Mike show, is not media of any kind, why is this the first and only place to tell you that this thing lost by 2 votes? That's an interesting story. I think it's interesting. Hasn't anybody else told you this?
I've never heard that before.
Right. We have a daily newspaper. Well, it's not so daily. And we have a radio station that's on 7 days a week. And they purport to be news agencies. And you're hearing it from us. Check with Art Harvey, and if you think he tells you the truth, you're going to believe him. But it lost by 2 votes. Why are we the only ones to tell you that? Because this is the only place where you can get news upon which you can depend. Notice my great grammar on that? Upon which you can depend.
We're Tragedy TV.
That's what we are.
Tragedy TV, that's what we are.
The fact that you're watching this is, according to Cheryl Walker, the fact that you're watching this show, that's the tragedy, that you're watching it. Okay,
that's
all right.
what I was referencing, but you know, it's not funny anymore when you have to explain the joke.
Oh boy, I'm always explaining the joke. Okay, so then Chuck Benson comes back. It's nearing the end of the show. They're not getting any phone calls. Have I mentioned that? No phone calls, Chuck. So nobody listens to this show anymore, except for us, and we're doing it for comedy. So he asked I have not edited this clip. He asked the commissioners, well, you know, they're running out of topics to talk about, so, you know, safe topics to talk about. We're going on and on and on about this, but that's me. And he says, so do you have anything where people have been asking you questions? Listen to their answer. This has not been edited. Go ahead and play this.
Commissioners, what else is on your plate right now that we need to deal with this morning? What is the public interested in? What kind of calls are you getting in your office here from the citizens? They're being ignored, as a matter of fact. Their phone numbers are.
Yeah, I think the biggest ones have to center around public safety.
Yeah. So he asked. It was a hilarious moment. I'm sorry. I just have to laugh. So what are the things where people are asking you about the most? And what do you have to say?
The dreaded dead air. You know what? Listen, if you want to talk tragedy, I think the tragedy is that people are not talking to these people. Okay, generally speaking, and I'm sad to say this. This is one of these things you might not like about this show or me or whatever. Is that, you know what? This is your failure. You know, I mean, if you're not calling and talking to these people about stuff, and then they do something that you don't like, and you only have yourself to blame. That's my 2-cent commentary there.
Well, we're going to go a little bit longer than half an hour tonight because I've just got 2 more clips to play for you. This is one where Simon Hare is explaining how hard everyone in this county is working. Why, you may think that they're not doing a very good job, but let me tell you, buddy, even Art Harvey, that guy that, as you may recall, that Art Harvey said, I can't do that. The state says I can't. So I got on the phone with the state. I got their permission to record it. They said, yes, he can. It's totally up to Art. And then I played that back. Then Art still says, no, I can't do it. The state is saying, yes, you can, Art. This is the second time that that's happened. Don't forget that this guy is the one that decided to measure down a hallway by going all the way to the end, doing a U-turn, and coming back, and that's measuring the distance, okay? So here's what Simon Hare has to say about our employees. Some of them are very good. I love Scott Chansey. He does a great job. But here's what Simon Hare has to say about our reputation, the county with the lowest possible reputation in the entire state. Here's the Simon Hare, Harry Mackin-like version of the truth. Go ahead.
It's pretty impressive when you go to Salem or other parts of the state and people reference the staff that we have in Josephine County. How did our VA director, Lisa Shipley, outpace every other county in the state for revenue from grant dollars through the state? Our building and safety director, Robert Rice, was the state chair last year. Our clerk, Art Harvey, is state renowned for his processes and being on the forefront of transparency and improved service through his clerk's office. The list goes on and on how well our staff is respected around the state for their expertise, their diligence, and being able to do so much with very little relative to other parts of the state. People marvel at how you're able to keep things moving in such tight fiscal situations. So when people look at the county, that's something we don't do very well at Josephine County, is touting our own horn.
Yeah.
They don't tout. They don't tout, not toot. They don't tout their own horn very well here.
Yeah.
So
that's good, because you can be arrested in some states for that.
For touting a horn on the street. You know, if we had any journalists besides us that really wanted to be journalists in this town, one of the things they would talk about Scott Chansey, because Scott Chansey's doing a great job. They would talk about some of the personnel that work with Art Harvey that are doing a great job. Okay, that's who they'd talk about. If you're going to talk about Lisa Shipley, okay, I know, oh, she does things for veterans. Yes, but don't forget that she's the one 2 levies ago that was we have her on tape saying this and asking for approval on pats on the back from the commissioners. That's when she stopped making monthly reports to them. She was saying, well, I've been telling the veterans that if they don't vote for this levy, they might not have a veterans office anymore. The levy? The law enforcement levy? That maybe they won't have their veterans benefits coming through her office anymore? You know what? That's it for me with her. I mean, the idea that she threatened these needy veterans, hello, with telling them that their money might be cut off if they don't vote for the levy, and guess what? They didn't vote for the levy, and their money wasn't cut off. Lisa Shipley. Yeah. Okay? Then you got Joseph Rice. Not Joseph Rice. Who is the other Rice? So that they got this Rice guy. This is kind of cool, you know. There are people in the state. So I go to him with this thing at the airport, and I said, this guy just rehung an entire airport door thing. They're huge and they're very, very heavy. And I said, I've heard from inside sources, we get those, that there was no attempt to go through the safety procedures with the county. That can't possibly be true. Oh yeah, I talked with Larry Graves. Larry Graves, who told me everything is fine. Really? You're not going to investigate to see if it was done safely? Are you going to test this thing after it's done to make sure that it's not like going to fall over? One can only hope it won't. But this is this guy's job. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the word of Larry Graves. And then you got the thing here about Art Harvey, the infamous Art Harvey. Well, listen, you know, we're well known around the state for our policies. Oh, yes, we are. But not the way he's saying it. Just concentrate on good county workers. Don't keep mentioning the ones that have lied to us. Okay, one more clip. I just love this last little clip. Go ahead and play this one, please.
Well, certainly one success story, and I know it's ongoing because there's a long ways to go yet, but certainly the fairgrounds has to be looked at as coming back into the black, but we still have a ways to go with that fairgrounds, do we not?
Oh, yes. I mean, and the potential there is wonderful to look at. The opportunity to develop it, to increase the user base of it is just wonderful to think about.
What? Man.
So let's please think all positive all the time, as Keith Eck has said.
Let's just have a moment of silence and think about that for a minute, because you know, I'm kind of awestruck as I think about that. Ah, yes.
It's amazing just to think about the possibilities. In fact, that's all that we really need to do in this society of ours. Don't pay attention to the details. Don't look at that guy behind the curtain. Just think positive all the time. You know, there is an advantage to thinking positive. There's also a little bit of advantage, just a little bit of advantage, to thinking clearly and honestly.
Yeah, with some analysis. You know, the thing is, when the commissioners tell you that they don't like negativity, what they mean is we don't like anybody who disagrees with everything we say, or disagrees with even some of what we say.
All they have to do is go to the Courier or go to Rotary Radio, and they'll get positive coming out of their ears, even if it's a lie.
Right. No, there's clearly, there are some people who are going to you know, bark their line no matter what, and we're just not one of them. And listen, I don't have something bad to say about everything they do, but when they do something stupid, you know, I think it's worth calling them out on it. And listen, it wouldn't be the first time that calling them out on something stopped our county from doing something really stupid that was going to hurt us. You know, so